Well, we went through how to name cations and anions, and I used this set in the last podcast. So let's continue on with it. Let's name compounds. We'll start with these three. First thing you have to do when you're given the chemical formula is ask, is it molecular or is it ionic? And remember the generalization. Nonmetal to nonmetal in a binary compound is a molecule, and metal to nonmetal in a binary compound is an ionic compound. And I've said this before, but it's not a hard and fast rule. It's a generalization. It works fairly well. So the first thing is to identify the cation and the anion. And what are their names? Sodium for the cation, and chlorine becomes chloride. So there's the name, sodium chloride. Sodium, and not oxygen, but oxide. Sodium, and not nitrogen, but nitride. So if you look at these three, sodium chloride, sodium oxide, sodium nitride, nowhere in any of those three is there an indication of how many of each cation there is in the chemical formula. You can't see sodium chloride and go, oh, well, there's one Na and one Cl because of the name. There are no prefixes. Because if you did that, you'd look at sodium oxide and say, oh, it's just NaO. No prefixes in the names. Do not add prefixes. That's reserved for the molecules. So let's swap in a different cation with those three anions, just so you can see patterns. So for each of these three, metal to nonmetal, binary ionic compound, you identify the cation and the anion. Magnesium, chloride. Magnesium, oxide. Magnesium, nitride. Same pattern as before. Take the name of the cation, take the name of the anion, there it is. And also note that the word ion doesn't appear in any of the names. The word ion is only used when you're just talking about the ion all by itself. These are compounds. One more set. Metal to nonmetal for each of them. Identify the cation and the anion. Aluminum, chloride. Aluminum, oxide. And aluminum nitride. Cation is first, anion is second. And in the next podcast, we'll talk about how do you go from the name to the formula. And there's a little more work for that, but this is why you need to know the names of the cations and the anions. Because you know the names of the ions, then you can name the chemical formula.